Next, we'll meet two Caribbean filmmakers from the current Heritage Film Fest. Right now, let's take a look at the trailer for one of their documentaries, The Price of Memory, from Jamaica.
In Jamaica, we live with reminders of slavery scattered across the island, and the legacy of slavery runs deep, touching the fabric of our lives.
It is a very special pleasure for me, on the occasion of my Golden Jubilee, to address the Jamaican Parliament.
Most people, when they see these beautiful buildings, they always ask, when were they built? The correct question to ask is, where did the money come from to build these buildings?
We build the British Empire with blood, sweat and tears. We should get redress to reparation now.
I do not think that it is remotely realistic to start talking of reparations at this stage. Reparations breed envy, they breed distrust, they stir up hatred.
The case for reparations for slavery rests on the premise that the effects of slavery are still being felt by Africans now living in Africa and the diaspora. There is no evidence of this.
The money went to Britain, the memories remained here.
Through the end of June, Caribbean's Heritage Film Series will be showing films from the Caribbean with special talkbacks given by filmmakers who come from places far like Jamaica and near like New York City. This Saturday at the Brooklyn Museum, the main screening will be the feature documentary whose trailer we just saw, The Price of Memory. And right now, we want to welcome its director, writer, and producer, Karen Marks Mafandikwa. Welcome, Karen. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Our pleasure. And joining us via Skype from Trinidad is the writer and co-producer of Pan, our music odyssey, Kim Johnson. His film will be shown on the 28th, which, by the way, our borough president, Eric Adams, is declaring Steel Pan Day in Brooklyn. Kim, thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't have a Steel Pan Day in Brooklyn already. That was a shock to me. That was a shock to me. But Karen, let's start with you, and let's talk about your film, Price of Memory. It took 10 years to make this come to fruition, correct?
Right.
What was your inspiration? What said, I want to talk about Jamaican reparations specifically?
Okay. Actually, when I started the film, I was living in New York, working in television, and I decided to make a short film because Queen Elizabeth, which we all know, British monarch, was visiting Jamaica. And while I was there, a group of Rastafari came to petition the Queen for reparations, and I thought, wow, it was a visual clash of history happening right in front of me. So I interviewed them, started that process, and when I came back, I just couldn't get away from the story and started thinking about them, and so I kept going back and forth between New York and Jamaica, making that documentary for a long time until I finally moved to Jamaica.
Okay.
I want to find out much more about that. Kim, what can you tell us about the film you're involved with, Pan, Our Music Odyssey, and how did you become involved with it?
Well, I've been writing about the steel band, our national instrument for many years now. So I've been involved in aspects of that. And then about 10 years ago, perhaps less, about 5 years ago, I curated an exhibition at the National Museum. It was mainly an exhibition of photographs, but I thought still images don't capture, a musical art form. So I included a short 10-minute documentary I had made on the steel band, and that was very well received. So people began telling me, you should make a feature-length, a proper documentary. So the idea stuck with me, and a friend of mine who is he's a filmmaker, he said, well, let's do it.
Okay, sounds good. Now, Kim, we actually have a clip to share with everyone, just to show how much you need the visual to go along with the steel pan.
Every year, thousands of fans rush to the South Caribbean to hear the metallic drum orchestras. It all started back in the 1940s when a gang of street boys stole an oil drum. Without knowing it, we launched the craziest musical journey of the century. And I was part of that gang. Because you can't change history without a bit of damage.
Your brother is in jail for life.
Now, people come from Japan, France, America, and Africa to celebrate the high mass of the steel drum, the pan. It all started one night in 1947. It was a hot night. I was 25 years old. Like any other guy of my age, I was bold. And as a good Trini, my blood was full of music. We drummed on anything we could get our hands on.
That looks good.
That looks good. Perfect cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So they're cutting through a fence there. Looks good, Kim. Looks very good.
Kim Johnson, the writer, joining us via Skype from Trinidad. Was this based on a true story, Kim?
Well, it's based on several true stories that I strung together. I got a fictitious character who will join several, real incidents to make a single narrative. So I'd have to say yes and no. The lead character isn't a real individual. I created him, but the events he was part of were all true events. And I'd go a bit further. Something really happened that surprised me one night when we were filming. We were filming in a very old and dingy nightclub, and a scene in the film, a very violent scene, is going to take place there, but we hadn't shot that yet. And it's in a rough part of Port of Spain, so there's a crowd there, and an old lady comes up and says, I'm getting goosebumps, the guy's going to get killed. And I said, how do you know that? We haven't filmed it yet. And she said, I was there when it happened.
What?
Wow.
That's
oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh. It screens June 28th, which is Steel Pan Day here in Brooklyn at the Caribbean Film Festival. Karen, your film, The Price of Memory, what can you tell us about the title? What is The Price of Memory?
Yeah. So The Price of Memory, essentially, I felt that with slavery, we have all these different memories. You have the money, the compensation for the event, but also our collective memory. In Jamaica, you live with the ruins. You can see, there are places that, when I was a child, for example, what really triggered it was 500 slaves were hanged for a rebellion in the middle of my town square. And I learned that as a kid. So walking through, you'd see these ruins. So we all have these different memories. There is a physical ruins. In the US, you can go to the South, and Boston, slavery happened in New York as well. So we have those ruins, but also what are the things that we live with? And what's the price? So the people in the film I followed for 10 years were paying an ultimate price. Their advocacy demanded a high price from them. So I looked at, it's an interweaving between the present struggle, what they're going through, what happened in the past. In Jamaica, people had started looking for reparations right after slavery. From 1865, people were writing the British monarchy asking for reparations. And she essentially said, work harder and then you'll make more money. When they were looking for land. So it's just, I felt that just knowing your own story was essential, and just for all of us really to know each other's story. So it's really a film about dialogue and for people to be aware, more aware of the issues of reparations and the legacies of slavery that we all live with and experience.
Sure. Let's talk about what is unique about the Caribbean experience. I think because living in Brooklyn, we kind of take it for granted. You might have, some jerk chicken for lunch and some Trini roti for dinner, you know what I mean? And it seems like a normal part of everyday, just normalcy, but what's unique about it?
But even you said jerk chicken, right? Jerk is a maroon. It comes from the Maroons. The Maroons are the runaway slaves of Jamaica that moved to the mountains and waged a war with the British for over 80 years.
Wow.
But that's what jerk come from.
Okay, but you see that.
So I'm just giving you the
Yeah,
history of
right.
this food that we all love.
Yeah, which is normal. Wow.
Yeah, so Jamaica, experience, even in the U.S., because I'm doing another project now on slavery in the U.S., but even in the U.S., between Boston and South Carolina, slavery was different. In the Caribbean, Jamaica, for example, slaves, the average slave lived for 9 years and then died from overwork, and they imported more because there was this cheap labor. While in the U.S., you were bred, breed them up to create more families, working, etc. So it varied. In Jamaica, it's a mountainous country. Slaves could run to the hills to escape. In Barbados, it's flat. Nobody could run away. So you don't have maroons there. So it's a very, it varies by experience. But at the end of the day, you're on free labor. You're going nowhere. So I could take up your whole day.
Karen, before we lose you, before you leave us, where can people see the screening of Price of Memory, and what's next for the film?
Okay, so the film is showing at Brooklyn Museum at 2 p.m. on Saturday. I'm going on a European tour. Like Sunday, I leave for the UK and Amsterdam. And The Price of Memory, thefilm.com, you can get a lot of more information about the film and upcoming screenings in the US this summer.
Perfect. Okay, and Kim? How does it feel that your film is going to be intertwined with Steel Pan Day in Brooklyn?
Oh, that's great. Part of the idea of this film, and indeed the original idea, the original title was Pan We Are the World. And I don't know if you could tell from the trailer, but in the documentary part of this film, we include people from different parts of the world, including the US, from Japan, from France. So we are also suggesting that this instrument created in Trinidad is becoming part of the international, I suppose, family of music. So that it should be in Brooklyn, you think, yeah, it's a kind of vindication of what we're saying.
Yeah.
But of course, it's also great.
Yeah, it is very befitting.
Yes, thank you, Kim, Karen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Everyone
you.
will make it out to Caribbean Film Fest and see your films, Pan, Our Musical Odyssey, and The Price of Memory. Thank you very much both for being here. Thank you for joining us from Trinidad, Kim.